as we're about to go through the Trump indictment and continue to hear updates on the Trump case, apparently the Manhattan District Attorney is now suggesting that Trump's scheme included a $30,000 payment to a former Trump doorman who alleged that Trump fathered a child out of wedlock. Again, worth remembering, mark your calendar for these dates. We have the judge has set the next court hearing for December 4th. Trump's legal team has said that motions to potentially dismiss or otherwise are due within 4 months. So that means August for motions, December for the next court appearance, and potentially a trial 9 months from now in January of 2024. Worth also remembering that these counts against Trump are only felonies if they are used or if the actual instance of concealment was done with the intent to defraud and as a way to potentially commit another crime. Let's get into some more details.
What the practice is.
Let's do a quick breakdown of the complete indictment against Donald Trump. It's 16 pages long, but surprisingly, it won't actually take that long to go through because the indictment doesn't really give us anything juicy. It doesn't give us evidence. It doesn't tell us potentially what crime was elevated. That is, remember what Donald Trump is being charged with here. Falsifying business records. On its own, if you write, a check for a restaurant meal for you and your wife, and then you say it was a business expense, that potentially, and even though you did no business, maybe that could be argued as falsifying business records, right? That might be a misdemeanor. Generally, falsifying business records are a misdemeanor. If now that potentially led you to cover up that you actually stole the money you used to pay for that dinner because you edited the source of the check or the signature, or you used somebody else's check, it could be argued that that misdemeanor is now going to get elevated to a felony, a Class E felony in New York. It's the lowest class of felony that exists. But that's essentially what's being done with Donald Trump here. The argument is, hey, you paid off essentially Stormy Daniels through Michael Cohen, maybe not the Trump organization or the Trump campaign itself, but maybe you used your family trust to do it, which kind of circumvents and finds the hole in Michael Cohen's attorney's a letter saying Donald Trump never reimbursed the money. So going down that hole, if Donald Trump then had his trust commit or reimburse Stormy Daniels via Michael Cohen for a hush money for her not making comments during Trump's political campaign, then the argument that New York is trying to make is, well, you making that payment in a roundabout way was a misdemeanor falsifying documents, but it also, in our opinion, violated campaign finance rules, so now we're going to elevate it to a felony. That is essentially the allegation here, and we don't really get much more evidence of it. Here's the actual set. Now, what I've done is I've gone through and just highlighted the stuff that's not copy and paste, because most of this indictment of the 34 counts is copy and paste. So, the 34 counts, I will read each of the 34 counts to you, specifically the parts that are different. An invoice from Michael Cohen dated Feb 14, 2017. A detailed general ledger from Donald Trump, a revocable trust. A detailed general ledger from Donald Trump revocable trust with a different number. A check and check stub from Feb 14. An invoice from Michael Cohen, that's already count 5. Count 6, a voucher from the general ledger of the accounting books. A check stub, count 7. A false entry of business records, count 8. This is all related to the same stuff. Detailed general entry, count 9. Check number and check stub, count 10. You've got an invoice from Michael Cohen dated May 22nd, count 11. A false entry of business record into detail of the general ledger for Donald Trump with a voucher number, count 12. Count 13, check number and check date, or check stub. Count 14, false entry of business records and from an invoice of Michael Cohen. Then we've got an entry into detailed ledger for Donald J. Trump bearing voucher number, blah, 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 maintained by the Trump organization. Count 16, account check and check stub dated June 19th. So it's basically every single check and invoice that was potentially used to reimburse Michael Cohen is being counted here. Here's count 17, which is another invoice from Michael Cohen. Count 18, general ledger. Count 19, a check. Count 20, an invoice. Count 21, a general ledger entry, which is basically 3 per, right? It's invoice, ledger, check. Invoice, ledger, check. Here's another count number 22, check. Count 23, invoice. Count 24, general ledger. Count number 25, check. Count number 26, invoice. Count 27, entry. Count 28, check. See the pattern here? Count 29, invoice. Count 20, I'm already on count 30. General ledger entry. Count number 31, check. And then can you guess what's going to be next? Invoice, ledger, check stub. That's literally it. Over and over and over again here. The same allegation. I think the only one that's really different is the first one here. Although this is, no, it's an invoice from Michael Cohen. So invoice, it doesn't even really matter because none of them are really unique. So it looks like a couple ledger entries maybe for the first one. That's how we get 3 counts per, and maybe these are 11 checks and one of them had 2 entries or something like that. So there's no evidence here. They're just allegations. There's no evidence of why they're elevating this to a felony. There's nothing. Now, we expect the DA to give some kind of press conference breaking down these 34 different allegations here. But the next court hearing is now set for December 4th. Motions are due in 4 months, which would be August. So motions due in August. The court proceeding or the next hearing would potentially be December 2023. The trial against Trump could start January of 2024, and the judge is saying they want to move judiciously, except they're still going to take 9 months to move judiciously. So it seems a little ludicrous to me that there was a lack of really evidence provided here. I think this really actually does the opposite that the prosecution wants to accomplish and just reinvigorates Republicans to look at this and go, are you serious? This is an empty indictment. There's no new information on this. You're still not providing evidence. You're 3Xing. You're basically taking the same instance of hush money payments made to potentially 2 individuals, which may not even be an election crime, a Federal Election Commission crime. It may not even be that. It's been refused to be prosecuted before on a federal level because to some extent, some people might argue that, hey, like paying somebody to sign an NDA might be a fair use of campaign money, even if it was the campaign that paid for it. Yet now, 11 different invoices, check stubs, and ledger entries are being used as a tool to say, oh, there are 34 counts of felonies against Trump. It's all the same instance, the same circumstance, essentially. Maybe you could say 2 hush money payments. But again, is that necessarily wrong? And is it a felony? Or is this, as we've said or have heard, a political witch hunt? We'll see. But that gives you the actual full text of the indictment. Let's keep listening over here.
Information and unlawful activity from American voters before and after.